welcome to Super Respectable. My name is Toshio Rahman, and with me is David Lewis. Hey, Dave, how are you?
I'm good, Tosh. How are you?
We're laughing because we're re-recording because we didn't record the first 3 minutes. Now I feel like it's a
False
script,
start.
like like we have to go through it all again, but we won't. It's okay.
Yeah, I gotta go through the small talk. It's all scripted, everybody.
uh,
I
how's
have
it
to
going,
remember my
Dave?
lines.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God.
Um,
What?
yeah, it's all good.
I was just gonna say, what's on your shirt? You just kind of move back. What does it say?
Uh, what do I have on today? It's hard to know. It's
Ah,
just a monkey smiling and laughing. Um, Something lighthearted.
yeah, very cool. What are some of the highlights from the last time we recorded? What are some of the interesting things that happened to you this week? Anything you want to mention?
It's my birthday tomorrow, so I had
Happy
some.
birthday, David Lewis.
Thank you very much, Toshio. So I had some friends drop by, only two friends here because
Cool.
it's a very small gathering. And as of I think tomorrow or Friday, there's going to be a curfew here, so no more
Oh,
household gatherings.
yeah.
Um, so that was quite nice to have that surprise there. And yeah, but aside from that, really not a whole lot happening. I gotta say, it's all
You got new headphones,
Groundhog Day
so
here.
yeah.
Oh yeah, and
Unfortunately,
the whole office setup. I've invested in a headquarters here. I have these new Apple AirPod things.
yeah.
I hope everybody can hear me fine. Switched from the over ear thing, so I'm fully revealing my quarantine growth, which
It's
sadly needs to be chopped off.
It's okay. I think it's completely understandable. We were just talking to today is inauguration day. We have a new, well, not we, the United States has a new president. So that's exciting. I feel like it just gives everyone like a huge weight off their shoulders. I think there's a sense of relief, right? But one thing I noticed is so strange is that, like, I don't know if you're following the news in the last couple of days, but pretty much it was like a countdown every day. 6 more days he's in office, 7 more days. But I kind of felt like that system was so weird that, like, he was able to get it. Like, we had to wait until this deadline for him to get out, even, and it allowed him to do anything he wanted to do in that time. And I kind of feel like that, like, if at the we would like never allow for stuff at a minor level like that. We wouldn't wait for. It's like there was a problem, but there was no solution until January 20th. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like it's strange, right?
Yeah, I think they need to revisit the amount of transition time that there is between November to January. It's a bit long because the whole process is just so long. The American presidential election system just
Right.
drags on from the nomination, the just whittling down the different candidates from different parties. It's just exhausting. So
Agreed, agreed.
yeah, there's this element of catharsis just to have the whole thing over with,
Yeah,
and we could just get on with our lives. But here
yeah.
we are.
I I agree. I was just gonna say, on my end, I'm picking up my new car today, which is
Oh yeah,
exciting. Yeah, it's my
is
first.
it? It's not your first car, is it?
It's my first new car that I bought. All
Your
my
first
other
new
cars have
car.
been like secondhand and not complicated. So I went through the whole process, putting a deposit at the dealership and then like going to the bank to get a
How
bank
was the
draft.
negotiation?
We wanted 2,000 off. We got $1,500 off, but we're okay with it. So,
Wow.
yeah. Then my bank account just went. Phew.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, man, it's so expensive in this country. I just realized. I mean, you're in the Netherlands, of course, you'll understand, but it costs so much to do. Like, insurance is crazy expensive in British Columbia. So, what can I do
Just
though?
don't
But
get it.
oh yeah. So, we're gonna go pick it up this
Do you have to
afternoon.
have insurance by law to drive a car? I
You
guess so,
do.
huh?
And in this country, in this province, because insurance is a provincial issue in our country,
Hmm.
in this province, we have a province-wide insurance called ICBC, and they're crooks. And you can record me on that.
Oh, no, here we go.
It's crazy expensive. So like, even with I have 20 years of driving almost experience and stuff, I still felt like it was a little overpriced. But what can I do? I need a car, so
Apparently,
yeah,
the insurance is higher if your car is like red or something. So,
yeah,
what color?
yeah,
What
yeah.
color did you get?
I read. No, I'm joking.
It goes
My
faster. Right.
I got a white
Okay.
Honda CRV 2021.
Wow.
It's a nice family car. It looks nice. Looks clean. Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. I mean, we drove a Volkswagen as well. And the Volkswagen was nice too, but I think the Honda is more within our budget slash needs. So we're happy with it, but it's a lot of money, man. Money,
Money, money,
money,
money,
money.
money.
Yeah.
Well, if you had invested in Bitcoin a few months ago, it wouldn't have felt the pain so much.
I have this game I play with my so so I started investing on this game called investopedia.com. You can do
Uh-huh.
a simulator. So they give me
Yeah.
100 grand and I've invested. And so I'm going on the long game. So my portfolio's up against the S&P. It's pretty good.
Wow.
Yeah, it's up a couple percent. I made $1,000 in the last week or something. So slow and
Can you
steady
share
wins
with
the
the our listeners what kind of
yeah.
crazy things you're putting your money into?
Sure. So, not like, I'm a Muslim. So when it comes to investing, there are certain things I
Mm,
can and cannot invest in. So, like, as a Muslim, I can't invest in any companies which work in certain fields, such as alcohol or gambling or
mm-hmm,
pornography, et cetera, et cetera. There's also some other rules as well. Like, it can't be most of their profit from interest as well. So I
mm,
went on to there's huge groups of like Muslim bankers and investors and companies that work on Islamic finance. So I went onto one of their websites and they have 10 of the top Muslim compliant stocks on the New York Stock Exchange. So I just took the 100,000 and I divided it by 10 and I put it onto the thing just to experience and see what would happen. And it's doing pretty well, actually. They're pretty stable long term stocks.
hmm.
They are, I can share with Dave later. So they meet all my religious requirements, but at the same time, they do, so Johnson and Johnson is up.
Oh yeah.
Procter and Gamble is down a little. I'm not
Mm.
really happy with the Procter and Gamble stock. I might sell it. Adobe is on there. Adobe was down for a while, but it got up. But the one that I was really impressed with was Intel. Intel in the last week has had almost a 13% growth. So I'm pretty happy with that one. And I have Salesforce on there, and then I have something called ASML Holdings. I think it's a not a mutual fund. I think it's I think it's an ETF. I think it's got a bunch of things. It's on the New York Stock Exchange, ASML. Maybe you can look into it. But I'm trying to do the long game, not the day to day trading. But
Okay.
I'd recommend Intel. By the way, Intel I was really happy with. But I think something happened over the last week. I think they got a new CEO or something.
ASML. Oh, it's a semiconductor
Oh, okay,
supplier.
okay. I'll
Int-
send you my portfolio after, and you can take a look.
It's a
It's
Dutch company. Very good
oh
choice.
I'm supporting you. There you go, you guys. So,
Hmm.
but I mean, I played this game with myself. If I could go back 5 years in, I wanted to tell you this. Did you hear about the fact? Did you hear about Elon Musk telling people to buy, uh, what was it? Signal, and it was the law. It was to download Signal the app because
Mm,
I don't know if you've
mm-hmm,
been hearing about what's happening with WhatsApp and the privacy
mm-hmm.
policies. But Signal is a nonprofit. They actually don't own a stock, so people misinterpreted and they went to this
And they
other
bought some
company
other random thing. Yeah.
and this stock skyrocketed in a day. It went from like a couple like cents or a couple dollars per stock to $38 per share.
It's just insane. It happens every time there's a mania for something or
Yeah,
the world's attention has been focused on something. Because I
yeah,
remember
it happened with Zoom last year
it
too.
happened with like the cannabis weed craze in 2017, 18.
Yeah,
People were just buying anything that had the name like weed
yeah.
marijuana on it. So some companies that were failing just renamed their company to, instead of like Long Island Iced Tea Corporation, to Long Island Marijuana Tea Corporation, and like
Yeah,
the stock just
skyrocket.
took off. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So people aren't that intelligent, basically.
he- here's a quick question for you, Dave. So theoretically, we finished university in 2007. Say your dad gave you dad's as a congratulation, he gave you 10 grand, and you're
Mm.
like, okay, invest in stocks. 2007, and now it's almost 15 years later. I know it's 14, but 2020. What are the stocks you'd invest in with 10 grand? The top five. Knowing now what you know.
I guess you have to go all in on the tech stocks. You go in into Amazon and Google, and I don't think Facebook was listed then.
It's true.
Um, Netflix would have been around.
Oh, Netflix
Um,
didn't. Yeah,
I would have just put
uh,
my money in those three things because they've all taken off.
you'd be a billionaire at this
I'd
point, definitely.
be a rich person. Yeah,
Rich guy. Totally. I
yeah.
think those stock. I've been looking at like when a lot of companies started their stocks and the starting price versus now. and like Tesla's done really well, and Netflix has done unbelievably well. But it's been
Mm,
a long haul. It's been like 20 years. So
yeah.
these guys. Do you remember Netflix used to be one of those things where you could mail? They'd mail you a DVD to
Yeah, yeah,
watch.
yeah. There's also a pretty interesting podcast. I think it's called Business Wars,
Yeah,
and they pick out certain competitors like Nike and Adidas,
yeah,
Coca-Cola, Pepsi. And then one I listened to a few months ago was Blockbuster versus Netflix. It's really
Netflix.
fascinating. I recommend our listeners to check it out,
Yeah,
because it was a huge threat to the business model of Blockbuster. And then they actually, for a while, put some money into kind of copying the business of
yeah.
Netflix. But sometimes it's just hard. Like they may have more money and be more established, but they just can't match the innovation and the DNA of these new tech companies, and they were just taken out.
I remember my memory, and Blockbuster was such a huge part of my life. There was one by my house. Every Friday night we'd go. My dad and mom would let us choose a
Yeah,
movie. We had the Blockbuster card. But looking back on it, it was such a horrible business model. Like all these stocky, bulky videos, and then they converted to DVDs, and then like by that time they were out of business, then Blu-rays, and now it's Netflix. So Netflix really did a job. And this morning I was just before the inauguration, I was watching Arrested Development on Netflix, which is like my new favorite show. And so I was just thinking the fact that like, all these other streaming companies have come in trying to duplicate it, like Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, Apple, I don't know,
mm,
Disney Plus or Disney something,
yeah.
Apple Plus, blah, blah, blah. And so, but Netflix really did a good job. But back in Canada, the selection is much better. But I feel like Netflix has too much garbage on their thing, too much product, like not enough good quality product. I think they
They
like
just go
they
for
give you
quantity.
they just
Yeah.
go for quantity. They'll give you like a one Nike shoe, but a bunch of like no name shoes and stuff. But I guess
That's actually a good point. It was one of their original things, and it's apparently carried on. Is just to get stuff up there
yeah,
and have like one or two big things going on, and that's what people seem to be talking about whenever there's a new show. Like, I don't know if you watch Queen's Gambit, the chess
yeah,
show. Once that comes out, everyone talks about it. They don't need to
yeah,
advertise a huge amount because people just get pushed to watch a certain show,
yeah,
and the rest of the stuff that's out there can just sort of hang
yeah,
around. And but I heard a stat recently. I think it's that to if you just started watching the entire Netflix catalog nonstop, 24/7, how
yeah,
long it would take you to get through it, assuming they didn't put out anything else from now.
yeah.
How long do you think that would be?
50 years,
No,
100
not
years.
quite. It's I think it's close to 5 years
Holy
you'd
crap,
be
that's a lot of.
spending. That's 24/7.
It's 24/7. The media business is I can understand is incredibly difficult because I understand that Netflix also makes original content, which is probably where most of their profits go. Like The Crown is the
Mm,
most expensive TV show ever made, apparently. But
really?
at the same time, they need to license all this other stuff, and you need to pay production companies this, that, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of logistics in terms. That's why if you ever notice on Netflix, shows don't stay on forever. There's like a time, there's like a
Hmm.
lifetime. They alternate. So some shows, some movies and stuff, they don't, maybe here in North America or in Europe, it's got a longer lifespan. But I remember when I was in Turkey, like I remember seeing a movie I wanted to watch and putting it in my list or whatever, and then going back a couple weeks later, and maybe that licensing period was over. They weren't allowed to take it
Mm.
on and anymore. So I don't know. It was a very smart idea though, but I mean, I don't find like completely addicted to it or anything. But I mean, if I see a good show, I'll watch it. But I don't know. Nowadays, my interest in watching television movies has declined significantly. Like I have
What I
so
would
much.
really like, and it's really a bad reflection on my attention span, is a method to watch the Netflix shows at like 1.5
Yeah,
speed.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because
Like if
that's
it,
really anti culture, anti like the art and the whole ethos of watching TV shows. And the director would be super pissed off with me knowing
yeah,
that their audience is fast forwarding through stuff. But
yeah,
I
yeah.
just
Why
find
not?
some scenes are pretty slow and all this like fluff. I just want to hear the
100%.
dialogue and
When I go on YouTube, I always put it at 2 speed, whatever
yeah.
I'm watching, because like who has time to watch a 25-minute video from this YouTuber or like 30 minutes
Hmm.
on this? Like I got stuff to do, man. Like,
Yeah,
Eh,
exactly.
And I think, by the way, I do it on Audible too. When I listen to a book, I go to 1.25 or 1.3 because I find that like one is just a little too slow and I need to get through things a little quicker.
Mm.
And I think if you can manage at those speeds, why not? Like you're still getting the content, you're still happy. And at the end of the day, watching a television show or a movie is not like reading a book whatsoever. It's just like if you forget or if you miss a scene, who cares? You know what I mean? You're not learning anything technically from these things, right? So I'm not so picky, but I do want to say that one thing I miss, and it's been about 14 months, is I want to go to the cinema. I know you went to go see that Italian show movie a couple months ago. I really want to go to the movies. It's been such a long time, and I really like doing it, but movies are still closed here.
Yeah, that was a great experience. It was me and three or four other people in this gigantic cinema.
Yeah.
Um, really, really strange. So if they survive and we're allowed out again, then I'd be very happy to go. But
Yeah. These
because there's
companies,
a James Bond movie that's supposed to come out, it's ready to go, but
it's been I think,
stuck.
oh man, yeah, man, these production companies have all these movies like that were ready in 2021. Now they have to push them back. Some of them did come out in 2020, and I think they didn't do as well as they thought they were going to do because no one could go. So like, I want to see the Bond movie. I want to see a couple other movies, but man, whatever.
Uh,
We used to go in university every Tuesday for cheap Tuesdays, right?
yeah, I think what's unfortunate
Thursday. Yeah.
in Ottawa, I don't remember if we went to the World Exchange
Yeah.
Plaza. I really
It's no
liked
more.
that cinema. It's no more. It was downtown Ottawa. I think it was it's somewhat walking distance to people who live in the center of town. But
Yeah.
now I think if you want to go watch a movie and you're in downtown Ottawa, you're a bit out of luck because one of the old cinemas, the Bytown, one of these classic ones, they
Out.
went bust, which is not too surprising.
It's all
So
like cineplexes and
it's all
South
these big
Keys
box things that
and
you have to drive out to the suburbs to go.
yeah.
So
You and I remember, so in our fourth year, just to our listeners and viewers, Dave and I went to the same college. We were roommates the year before, but in the fourth year, unfortunately, I didn't get to share that pleasure with Dave anymore.
oh,
But we used to go on I think Tuesdays. I think it was cheap Tuesdays or something, right? It was like half price for students or something like that, or just generally. But we used to go watch a movie and then get a shawarma or vice versa.
shawarma.
And movies. And just before you continue, I'll just say one final story. And I tell this story to everyone. I don't know if you remember this or not, but you and I went to the World Exchange. We went to go watch a movie called Blood Diamond with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Uh-huh.
They put us in a cinema which was extremely small, which was like a small, like number 9 or 10. I think there was only 50 seats or 20 seats, but it was us and two other people in the cinema. So we're watching this movie, and I remember this because it's so gross on my part. But the cinema's on a slope, like the chairs were
Hmm.
going up, and I dropped my water bottle, and so it hit the ground during the movie, and it rolled to the bottom. So I walked down, I picked up the bottle, and I came back up, and it was dark, and I started drinking it, and afterwards I realized it wasn't my bottle.
Oh no.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
and
no.
it was someone else's bottle, and
That is
then
not Corona friendly.
I was yeah, back in 2007. And I went home and I went to my roommate who was our mutual friend, who I lived with, who was like a biology major or whatever. And I asked him, I told him what happened. He said, "Don't worry, nothing will happen to you." And nothing happened.
Yeah, you came out stronger in the end.
There you go. There you go. But it was fun. We can go. Hopefully we can go back to the movies and drink from our own water bottles in the future together at some point.
I really miss shawarma as well.
Oh, all
Um,
of it.
well, this kind of
Oh.
segues into today's topic. I'll see if I can make it work. Uh, it's about escapism because going to the movies is a form of escapism, and you just want to like be immersed in a world. Um, Traveling. I thought I'd
Yeah,
talk today about traveling the world because
sure.
traveling is escapism. It's also other things, getting to experience other cultures and meet friends in far-flung places. But it's something that I'm sure a lot of people are thinking of these days. They're
Oh,
they're wishing they could just get on a plane and sit on a beach somewhere or climb some mountain and ski down it.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so yeah, I was thinking about traveling and vacations, and so I just started. I don't really have a particular story. There's not like one thread that I'm going to go through. It's just a bunch of random, interesting things that I came across in the kind of
yeah.
like Guinness World Book of Record type of thing. Because there's this whole community of people who I don't know if they do it for attention on YouTube or something, but or their own personal growth. But there's a lot of people out there who like compete to try and go to every single country in the world.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's an ambition of yours.
No,
No.
but it was. But I mean, when I had my wanderlust in my younger years, I
Mm.
wanted to visit all of them. I even planned to visit most countries, and now I'm older now, but I can understand it for sure, and I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah, there's people who like they do country counts and they really make a concerted effort to
yeah,
go everywhere. And I see the merit in it, but I also feel if they do it in a certain way, it's just box ticking, and
yeah.
they're just trying
It's
to
kind of
blaze through a list and not really get a sense of a place.
a form of like obsessive compulsive disorder, sort of just to get things
Yeah,
done. Yeah.
and I want to be clear on your definition. Would you count um, having gone to a place, whether if you were just in the airport?
Um, I say no.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I say no, because I used to count. I used to have this map, and we can share numbers of how many countries we've visited. And
Yeah.
there's mine's not that large. I visit a lot of countries multiple times because they're just frequent. But I used to have a map where I used to put like what do you call it, thumbtacks on them,
Mm,
and then I had the debate on the airport or not. But in my current day and age, I would say visiting an airport doesn't really count as visiting a country.
no,
You agree?
I agree because I've
Okay.
been to Sweden, but
Yeah.
just the Stockholm airport,
Yeah.
and that doesn't count because I had
Yeah.
Swedish food. I saw some Swedish people,
Yeah.
but I didn't leave the airport.
What's
So,
Swedish food? Like what like meatballs
well,
and
you know, the meatballs
uh,
and
yeah.
some cured fish, I guess, some
Oh yeah, salmon and
anything that you can get at IKEA. They have a pretty good selection. A lot of fiber in the food there. um, and would you say that you need to spend a certain amount of time in the country? Like, do you need to sleep overnight for it to count? Are there any other
No,
criteria you would have?
no. I think if you could spend a day in a country, I did Munich in a day, and I felt like it's off my list. Was it Munich or Frankfurt? Frankfurt. Sorry, I was
But
there just in transit, but I went out to the
mm,
city, and I was pretty happy. I don't want to go back. I'm good. So like, so I
okay,
think
so Germany has
Germany's
been
I've been
ticked.
to yeah, Germany's been ticked. So I don't think you have to spend a day. I think you have to feel that like yeah, this was worth it and so because you've traveled a lot. I think different people want different things when they travel. Some people love just hanging out at the hotel doing nothing. Other people
Mm,
like seeing all the sights. Other people want the food. I think you have to feel self-fulfilled on your trip. So I think those two qualifications would for me would describe visiting a country in full.
yes.
In my
So
opinion.
I think that's correct, and I think the Guinness Book of Records agrees with you. So you have
Oh,
to. So there's people. I'll go through some of the records
yeah,
of people who have visited every sovereign country in the world. So I think that's
yeah,
like I don't know what the full
200
number
and
is these days. There's more FIFA member states than there are UN member states. It's kind of an interesting fact because I think they got Palestine as a FIFA.
yeah.
Are they part of the UN? Not sure.
They've something happened recently that made like upgraded like their status is different. Okay, I'll go while you talk.
Yeah, okay. So the Guinness World Record for the fastest time. This is a thing that I wouldn't really recommend viewers or listeners doing. But someone has managed to see every single country in the world in 1 year and 189 days. That
Wow,
is insane, hey?
that must be like a country like 2 days in each country or something like that, right?
Yeah. So I think that's like what 198 countries, close to 200 countries would be all
Yeah,
sovereign. Um, so her name is Taylor Demon Brune from Alabama. Sorry, Taylor, if I mess up your last name.
yeah.
And she finished this in 7th of December 2018. So
Wow,
um, that's really, really impressive. And then the youngest person to travel to every country in the world was 21 years old. And this
wow.
person had the advantage of her parents worked for a travel agency. So when she
Uh,
was young, they got to
yeah,
go to different parts of the world, and so that really helped
yeah.
accelerate things.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, yeah. And there is one record which has not been broken, which is traveling to every single country in the world without flying,
Oh
and
yeah,
and in one single journey. So the record has been broken to traveling to every single country in the world without flying, but the person who did it went back to the UK a couple times, and then
yeah,
they restarted, went back to where they left, and
yeah,
then
yeah,
picked up. But there's a Danish guy who is currently traveling around the world. His name is Tor Peterson, and he's been traveling full time since 2013.
wow,
Um, and it has to be more. His criteria is, or maybe a Guinness Book of Records criteria. He has to be more than 24 hours in each country to count.
yeah, yeah,
And he's currently at 194 countries, so he's painfully close. But
yeah,
the problem was the pandemic came, and he's 9 countries away from his target to break the record. But
yeah.
he's been stuck in Hong Kong since the pandemic.
No way. That's a
So it
tough
must
place
be
to get to.
really since March. So this guy, I checked, he's still there. And
Oh,
good luck, Tor. I hope 2021 is your year to get through it. But that is
yeah,
really an achievement to be going full time. I assume he must have got some sponsorships
yeah.
or some supporters to help him. That's not a cheap thing to do either.
Well, 2 points. Number one, I just looked. As of July 2019, Palestine is a state, a member state of the United Nations. So
Hmm.
good on them. Good work. That's good. Uh, and then number two, I read about that guy from the UK who did it, and I think he kept going back to the UK to make it to work a little bit, to see family, to kind of
Mm,
a deal, and then he kept going. But that was back in the day because I remember reading his article before I went on my little trip in 2013 or 14,
okay.
whatever, 12. So, but it's a cool goal to have, but it's very complicated. There's so many things outside of your control, by the way. So like no country in the world will allow you to travel to every country visa free. No passport will allow you to
Yeah.
do that. So there's a lot of visas you need to apply for, and some of these visas are extremely difficult to get. Even if you have the best passport in the world, money is a huge portion as well. A lot of that geography, a lot of these countries, some little countries are in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of the Pacific
Hmm.
or Atlantic. So like getting there without a plane means either you're swimming a long time or you're taking some type of boat, and then yeah, I don't know if I
Yeah.
still have
It's
that interest anymore to do it. I'm just tired now, but
yeah. The
it's a,
guy that he was interviewed, and someone said, "Do you ever think about quitting and giving up?" And he
yeah.
said, "Every day." But probably because he was worn down by the whole administrative side. Would imagine, I, from my side, the things that would slow me down and put me off would be, the visa application
Crazy.
process, um, going to a war zone just to take that place
Yeah,
off the list would not be
yeah,
fun.
it's yeah.
Um, and yeah, just getting into like dangerous circumstances, and you're traveling by yourself. So.
Oh yeah. I in 2013 I was out of a job. But I also I did a little trip of Southeast Asia and the Middle East and the Gulf. The Gulf with my mom, but the Middle East, not the Middle, Southeast Asia by myself. So I did 9 countries by myself in
Oh
Southeast
wow.
Asia. In about a month and a half, 2 months. And my plan was to just keep going. And I had money, which was great because it was cheap. And the countries are really close together, so you can move to country. And I actually used that guy's article as inspiration and reference
Oh great.
points. And I used Lonely Planet TripAdvisor.
How did
But
you find it traveling by yourself?
I was okay. I'm kind of like introvert anyway, so I liked it at that point. And
You're very good at striking up conversations, and yeah, that's how we
thanks.
met. You talked to me in line in the bookstore at
There you go.
Carlton, so you're very
Yeah,
charming and charismatic
thank you.
and all these things.
That's very nice of you to say. Uh, Thanks. Yeah, so I did that part, and it was on a small scale. I think if you have some basics on travel and you know how to do certain things, it's not so complicated. It really, I know this is horrible to say, and I mean this like with no harm. If you're a guy, it's much safer. If you're a girl,
Mm-hmm.
it's a completely different story. But like it was extremely eye-opening to travel and like kind of do this. But also, I get that idea of just checking it off your list. You know what I mean? Just to,
Hmm.
you're not only enjoying countries. But one thing I started doing was that if something didn't interest me, I wouldn't put myself in it. I'd only do things that interested me. You know. So like I remember I was in one country for just 2 days because I didn't like it anymore. I didn't. There was nothing for me to do. I didn't like it, so I moved. And then I was in Indonesia for 8 days, which was a little nicer. I was in Malaysia for a couple of days, and then Singapore because it's so expensive. I moved to the
Hmm.
next country. So it's a cool thing. I think people should, at the end of the day, my thesis is that people should travel and see the world, whether it's every country in the world or one country. It opens your eyes incredibly, and I think it's an amazing, amazing thing to engage in. And I would definitely encourage my children to travel and to learn and to experience and to fail and to learn
Hmm.
because it really is one of the best things that you can get. And my second point is you don't have to be rich to travel. No way.
Hmm.
You can definitely find ways, whether it's hostels or traveling economy class, or eating food's pretty cheap in most places. You can kind of find cheap options, but enjoy it, I think. You've traveled a lot too. What are your experiences and your thoughts?
Yeah, I've traveled on my own a few times, and the first time I did it was to Barcelona in 2012. It
Mhm.
just felt like a very strange sensation at first. I'm like, why am I doing this? I had a real interest just to see Spain and Barcelona, and it
Yeah.
was a bit of a stupid first trip to Spain because I just finished a Spanish course, and I said, "Ooh, I'll
uh,
go to Spain." And
yeah.
people are like, you know, in Barcelona they don't speak like Spanish; it's Catalan. I was like, "Oh, damn." But that was fine. It
Yeah.
was cool. Like if you stay in hostels or in like kind of community hotels, boutique hotels,
Yeah.
you can form good connections with people. Back then, it was a bit better because people weren't quite addicted to their phones as they are these days. So the
Yeah.
whole hostel experience was a bit better for interaction and
Yeah.
making friends. So I was happy
Totally.
to like go out on my own during the day, but then come back and like I was craving some sort of social interaction and
Yeah. Yeah.
human
You get lonely
connection.
from time
So
to time.
that was good. I don't think I could do like pure stay in a hotel and be on my
Yeah,
own all
yeah, no,
the time.
no, no. I balanced it. I did one hostel, but mostly it was like these like little village huts or village like
Mm,
the little rest like places for cheap. But and then also, one thing that's changed now, and it was changing when I traveled, is that I think now most of the world is connected by Wi-Fi at this point. So if you have a phone or a tablet, at least you can stay in touch with mom and dad and let them know you're safe. I think it's very rare that you'll go to a place which is completely off the grid.
mm.
So even when I was traveling, it was very easy to get Wi-Fi, and that was like 9 years ago or 8 years
Yeah,
ago.
it's pretty wild to think. I did two like Europe trips in university,
Yeah,
one Western Europe and one kind of Central Eastern Europe. And this
yeah,
was we before smartphones, so it's kind
yeah,
of weird to think about
yeah,
that. And
yeah.
so the first one was with my very good friend Steve Tomask, and he's a very organized and methodical guy,
Yeah,
and he had planned out the train times
yeah,
like to the minute
yeah,
at each location we were going to.
yeah,
And I think if it wasn't for that, we would have been in a bit of a situation. We would have got by fine, but
yeah.
it's
I
these kind of
understand.
bits of information that you take for granted these days. You're like, oh, when's the train coming? Oh, I missed this one. When's the next
Yeah,
one?
yeah,
That all these questions are circulating in your brain without this smartphone.
yeah,
And like navigation of a city or town,
yeah,
we were, walking around a big
yeah.
map. It's hard to
Maps.
fold back up
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's really changed the whole travel dynamic is having a phone. Because I
Well,
did it, I traveled on my own. Last time I did it was 2019. I went to Spain again,
yeah.
and yeah, stayed in a
This
hostel.
time you learned Catalina, right? And then you're like, I'm gonna
Yeah,
make up,
no,
make up.
it was in northern Spain, so they
Oh,
spoke Basque. I seem to go to all these places where they don't speak Spanish. um, but yeah, you really feel the difference with the phones. People are still friendly. Like when if you like say hello and have a try and break into a conversation, you realize that people are just holding onto their phone as like little comfort blanket to
totally,
not feel lonely and to
totally.
tell people what they're doing so they don't just look around and feel awkward.
Well,
Um,
I 100% would agree. I think one thing that traveling does is open your eyes to the similarities of people all around the world. You know, at the end of the day, most people are extremely friendly and
Hmm.
hospitable. They want to help you. They want to, make sure you're okay. They just,
For
they're
sure.
living their lives day to day. And like for me, if I wasn't like in my second trip when I went to Morocco, I met my wife, right? So like
Wow.
if I hadn't done that, then that might not have happened. So I'm extremely grateful for it. But I will say traveling with somebody or a group of people generally is much more entertaining and much more social than doing it yourself because you just have someone. You're not lonely. Like now that I have my wife and you have your partner, I'm sure that when you guys travel together, uh, you know, it's just fun to
It's the
enjoy.
shared experience, the shared memories.
Exactly.
So it's like I can't go to people and say, "Oh, remember that time I went to Barcelona by myself?" And
Yeah, sitting in that
um,
restaurant eating by
it's
myself in the
yeah,
corner.
yeah.
That's pretty
It's
sad.
just my own memories.
But
Um,
I have a question for you. Do you feel that like these people that are trying to get every country off the list, like once they do all of it, it'll just be like, what's next? Or is it
they're
like
empty.
fulfilling? They're empty? Is this their made? Like I don't know, because I like to experience everything, and so like I just wondered, it's a lot of countries. If you told me that I'm going to try to visit every country in the world in my lifetime, then I'd be like, yeah, that's cool. Then you could probably do two countries a year or three countries a year and really just enjoy it and experience it. But even within a year or 2 years or even 5 years, you're really rushing yourself, right? You're not really. You're always on
Yeah,
the back of your mind. You're like, hey, time's up, next country. You know what I mean?
yeah, and like I really appreciated the extended travels I did to Europe and various places. But
Yeah,
at a certain point, you say, "Okay, enough. I want the comfort of home."
home. Yeah,
And
you're homesick,
no,
right?
nothing's like your own bed and your own shower and your own space, right? After a while, it can get a bit tiresome to have to deal with different systems, different plugs, different this and that, knowing whether
Yeah.
the water is okay to drink. Um,
Voltages, yeah.
don't think I could do
Well,
that full time. Um,
so
yeah,
one thing I guess we would call people who are traveling around the world like backpackers, right? Like,
yeah.
you wouldn't be in a suitcase, you'd be in like a so before I went on my trip, I did a huge haul of like backpacking, really like traveling around the world type of stuff. So I bought clothes which are more sporty, like there's like a huge list of things that people say to buy and stuff, so you don't bring unnecessary things. So I bought all that stuff, and so like I'd go around the world with that stuff, easy to wash, easy to clean. Like t-shirts that are made for hot climates, sweaters made for cold climates. So that was like it was fun to do all that and plan it out. And then my mom was super encouraging. She's like, "Yeah, go do it. Like get it out of your system now." And so I did. And then, like I said, I think I would never change it for the world. But I would now. Would you continue, like, if someone gave you the option and the ability to keep traveling around the world like this, would you take it at this moment, or would you be like, no, I don't want to do it anymore? Like if they sponsored you, if they did it, like what if? Here's a better theoretical. Dave, we want you to break the world record. Every country visited in with plane. Don't worry. After COVID, we'll sponsor it in full. It'll take however fast you think you can do it, fulfilling these requirements. So let's say a year. Would you do it?
Oh man.
It's a tough
Um,
Sophie's choice, huh? It's a big question.
if it's fully funded, then sure, why not? But yeah, I think I would probably get a bit tense by the 6 month mark, and
You got stuff.
yeah,
You
even with it being fully sponsored, maybe I just
Oh yeah.
say no, I want to go home. Enough of this.
Yeah, yeah. I would decline from the outside because I think like I have people relying on me. I'm just tired. I'm older.
Tired, yeah.
I got stuff to do. It's really a young man's game at this point. But because for me, I'd rather go to one destination or two destinations and spend a couple weeks and just
Yeah, I prefer
as
depth to breadth.
yeah, there you go. I like that. I've never heard that before. I like that though. Yeah, I do that. But I do have an interesting story though. Is that at one point when I first got my license, my motorcycle license, I was like, you know what I want to do? I want to motorcycle to every country in Africa. I think I just
Mm,
saw a documentary. So just for fun, I took out a map of Africa and I just kind of plotted a route, and there's like 50 something countries in Africa, and then I went online to look at which visas I could get on arrival and which ones I have to pre-apply for with my passport. And it was crazy. There were a number of countries in Africa that I needed visas for, and I did the math. It would cost me like a couple $1,000s just in visa application fees alone.
mm.
It wasn't worth it. So traveling to every country in the world, I mean, these people mustn't. It's really there's a logistical nightmare to all this stuff as
Hmm.
well. It's
For
not as
sure.
easy as like, hello, like, can you let me in your country? Because some people may be like, why are you here?
Yeah. And it's interesting you mentioned the passport business. So I Googled, there's a ranking of passports.
Yeah,
So I don't know what the organization is, but I went to the first link and it's lists like the power list of best
yeah,
and worst passports in the world.
yeah.
And you're an
I'm
expert in
familiar.
this field.
I'm
Um,
very familiar. Yeah, I won't say the
so
company name. It's a
no,
competition, but
won't be doing that. But do you know at the top of your head what is the best passport in the world to have?
which
And so the measurement that they use
mm,
is number of countries you can visit visa
on arrival.
free. Then number two is visa on arrival, and number
Yeah.
three visa required. So like the highest weighting is for visa free travel.
Which the article or the which what date? Because it's changed twice, I think, this last year.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I just went to this website that said like the power list of.
It's either one of three, I think, at the moment, but I can't remember the order. It's either the Emirati passport, the Japanese passport, or the Singapore passport, right?
Germany.
Oh, damn it! Yeah, it is Germany. I just read that too. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think
100.
the European countries have the advantage because of the EU, so they have all that checked off, and they get a bunch of other global
So
countries.
I'll
Mm.
mention it. It's the Henley and Partners list, right? It's the power list or the passport index. Is that what you're looking at?
I can pull it up.
No problem. We'll
Let's
we'll
see.
link it on our thing too. So it changes a lot, but the Japanese passport's very strong. The Singapore passport is also very strong. Surprisingly, the Emirati, the United Arab Emirates passport, was doing pretty well too at some point. But you're right, the Germany passport is also very, very good. It gets you to like 180 countries or something like that.
Yeah, it said 100 countries
Visa.
visa free,
Yeah,
which is pretty good.
yeah.
And then the worst in the world
Uh,
is
Afghanistan.
uh, Iraq is the
Oh,
worst.
Iraq. Yeah.
So
Uh,
you can only get visa free travel if you have an Iraqi passport for three countries.
what are the three countries?
I'll probably
Yeah.
be up next three worst ones. So it's like
Uh,
Afghanistan, Syria, Somalia, Yemen.
uh,
Actually, I don't know what they would be. Um,
I
yeah,
I think that one because I work in this industry as well, but I mean as a traveler too, I think the whole visa system and being able to travel really needs to be revolutionized because it's a very old way of doing things and it's very silly. Applying for visas, going to places, paying so much money, getting stamps. Have you ever been in a situation where like they stamp on the wrong page or they take up too much space
oh yeah,
unnecessarily? Because they don't give passports like with unlimited pages. Unfortunately, they give you a certain number of pages, and then if you expire those, then you have to reapply. And reapplying is a nightmare. Any country, like a Canadian application, is stupid. It's completely unnecessary, like the way they do it. So I think it really needs to be changed. Hopefully, e-visas, not e-visas, like the electronic passports, fingerprints. Hopefully, we can work together more as countries and globalize it and just make travel easier for people.
the problem is though it's all politics because certain countries they have their reasons for not wanting certain citizens visiting
Yeah.
readily because of paranoias about whether they're being infiltrated
Yeah.
and spies and whatnot.
I think that what the Shenzhen region has done, it's extremely difficult for certain people for to get a Shenzhen visa if you require it. But once you're in, which I think should change by the way, but once you're in, it's very. I like the free flow of movement between the 26, 27 countries, right? And what
Yeah, it's very sad. Something I'll miss. I've lost those rights.
you're out. You're just but you get access to all of the United Kingdom, right? It's Great
Yeah,
Britain,
I don't know. It's like
Northern Ireland,
a
Scotland,
not a
and
great advantage these days. I mean, obviously, I have my family there, but right now it's a very bad situation.
yeah. But I was gonna ask
Yeah,
you. Oh yeah, go ahead.
yeah, no. If you have a question for me, please
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, yeah, I do. What's like once COVID's over? Do you have any travel plans? Any places you want to visit, or what's the next big country you want to go to?
Yeah, aside from going back to Canada to see family, I think probably my go-to is Italy or Spain. I love those
Again?
countries.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, Spain.
I can't stop.
Again,
Um,
you got enough of Spain, huh?
or maybe a beach somewhere. But the problem is the rest of the world will also be, running
Yeah.
over to the nearest beach, and it'll be as packed as it ever was. And then the cycle continues. What about you?
So for us, so my list of countries, I have a couple countries that I don't mind visiting in the next couple of years. I mean, when I can, we'd like to visit Egypt. That's on our
Hmm.
both of my me and my wife and I's list. So Egypt would be really great. She has friends there, and I'd love to kind of experience it as well. Italy as well, and a little bit more in Europe would be really nice for me. I really enjoyed. I'd go like Greece or Italy and just spend a week or two there and not do anything except just eat. That would be amazing for me. But
Yeah, the food in Italy and Spain is just phenomenal. So
would you travel to like Asia or Southeast Asia? Is that of interest to
actually,
you?
good point.
South America?
Japan. I think Japan is a big missing one on my list. Never been there,
Yeah.
and I'm fascinated by it. Would love to go. I have a couple of friends in Russia. I'd love to visit.
No way. Russia, yeah.
I'd love to visit Moscow and St. Petersburg. I don't think I'd do the Trans-Siberian. I've heard some
Yeah.
pretty. It has like a mythology about it, but in practice, I probably would hate it after a few days.
Yeah. I think being stuck there. I was born in Japan, as you know, so I would
Mhm.
actually like to go back to kind of see some of the historical parts of our family as well, show my wife and I mean myself because I don't even know too. But
Which city were you born in?
I was born in a city called Yokkaichi.
Uh-huh.
It's an hour outside of Osaka. It's where Honda is. They have a big
Oh,
Honda
right.
factory and dealership. That's where my dad was employed. So we'd just go back and check everything out, and then visit my yakuza friends, and like, just joking, and then go back. But one part of the world I'm actually like, I don't mean this in a negative way, but maybe I will. I've never been interested, or do I have the interest now? But I would go happily. But it's South America for me. I just
Yeah, me
don't.
too. Never.
Yeah. Uh, um, I don't really know a lot about it. I don't know. Something's not that
I would go
interesting.
to I'm interested by Patagonia,
Oh yeah,
just the region,
yeah.
because I'm half Welsh, and
Yeah.
there's actually a Welsh community in Argentina, and
Oh,
it's so
okay.
peculiar. It's like um, maybe I'll do an episode about it, but there's a section where these Welsh people have found themselves because there's a mining um,
Crazy.
community, and they
Yeah.
dress the same as they do in like 19th century. They haven't changed it's like really traditional Welsh
No.
dress. I'm sure it's
Yeah.
not like all the time, but from when I Googled the pictures, it looked like, the stereotypical image of a Welsh person from
Yeah.
100 years
Yeah.
ago.
Well, is it just because they're like? Do you know why they keep dressing like that? Is there? They just.
I don't know. I think possibly it's this somewhat accentuated version of what happens when I felt it in North America. People really inflate where they're from. I'm guilty of it. I was always saying I'm from UK and I've got
Yeah.
Polish connections, and the Italians and Irish. They always, St. Patrick's Day in Boston is such a big deal, and people talk
Huge.
about their Irish heritage.
Yeah.
So there's an element of just talking about the motherland and the old country and really
Yeah.
being nostalgic about it. So I think they really maybe an isolated area and they just weren't exposed to other things for a long
Yeah.
time. They just kept up their way of life.
Wow. I think
Uh,
also that's yeah, that's fascinating. I think for us as well, we have a Moroccan connection because my wife is Moroccan, so I'd love to go back there as much as I can
mm,
and like spend time with family and maybe like see if I can start see the land I want to buy for my retirement one day.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
would you
but
consider retirement there?
oh yeah, that's the plan. Well, right now I'm making money for retirement. I gotta say, but once everyone's out of the house and it's just the wife and I think Morocco is the place to go. I know which city it is, but I don't want to tell publicly, or else everyone will go there. So,
Oh really?
yeah.
Okay.
But
Well,
we do want to go to Spain too. We're big because Spain is just neighbor to Morocco to the north,
mhm.
and you can go to both countries via ferry. But I used to go to the whenever I had to do a visa run when I was living in Morocco, I used to go to a place called Ceuta or Septa, however you want to
Oh, it's
call it.
this exclave enclave.
That's correct. It's Spanish enclave attached to
Mm.
Morocco, and so you can cross the border, drive in for 10 minutes, and then come back out, and you've gone to a new country. So, but I'd love to go to Barcelona and Madrid and Cordoba and Andalusia. and just experience it. I think Morocco and Spain have very similar lifestyles and cultures. There's a lot of interflow. It's not the right word, but the Moroccans in Spain. I think a lot of Spanish people come to
Hmm.
Morocco. So I like the lifestyle, and I like the ease and the warmth.
I
So we can
struggle a
go to
bit
the
with
other.
the siesta time though,
Yeah,
because
it's
I still have the Anglo-Saxon mentality is that I'm awake.
yeah,
Why is everyone start closing their shop and going to sleep?
yeah.
But then you kind of in the summertime you understand it's too hot to do anything,
Yeah,
and then they're night owls. Like they don't have dinner until I don't know what
yeah,
it's like in Morocco, but in Spain the dinners don't start until at least 9 o'clock.
yeah.
And then
In the summer
if they're
times.
going out to a party, then they don't go to a bar until midnight, 1 in the morning, and
Oh my
that's
gosh.
that's totally foreign to me.
Is that during the peak hours, or is that like during the summertime, or is that full year?
Uh, I haven't been in winter to investigate, but there were times where I'd go out at night and it was like 11, 12 at night, and there were just toddlers and children that were being propped up and their heads were bobbing, they're exhausted, but their families were just wanting to be up and out. So there's a real like nighttime culture, not just for like kids and teenagers and young adults. It's like
Yeah,
everybody's up.
yeah. Would you be interested in going to China?
Yeah, I would check it out. I went to Hong Kong a couple
Yeah,
of years ago, where we saw our friend, saw my friend Marcus, mutual
yeah,
friend,
yeah.
and I really enjoyed that. I think China would be a really different experience from like Hong Kong. Um,
Totally.
have you
I
been?
yeah, I was in Shanghai for a day. I
Hmm.
fulfilled the requirements. I was
Okay.
absolutely required, and it was pretty for us. It was crazy, man. There was a lot of people. We were there in transit, and it was just like I remember seeing like millions and millions and millions of people. I know I'm exaggerating,
Mm,
but it's a lot of people. I would
probably not.
definitely, yeah, it's a lot of people. I would like to go. I would like to do both. I'm really interested in like Islamic art and history and culture. So there's a northern part of China, which is the Uyghurs, right? I'd like to
Uh,
visit them. At the same time, I'd like to do a tour and check out like the big sites. You know those the Chinese the Great Wall of China, and then there's the statues they found dug up and stuff. I'd like to do
the
all the touristy things too,
mhm,
but I'd like
mhm.
to do it in a group and not by myself because I don't feel like it's good for me. It's safe, you know what I mean? Like I think this is something I'd like to share with other people. So
How about
like,
this then? So some of the hardest countries in the world to visit. I looked that
yeah,
up.
yeah. Tell me.
Is um, Eritrea,
Oh,
Syria, Libya,
yeah, yeah,
South Sudan, and then the big one is North Korea.
yeah,
Would you
yeah.
ever
No,
consider North Korea?
never. I've been to South Korea, North Korea. I don't think there's anything of interest of
It
for me.
almost
I know.
happened for me. I
No
was
way. Tell me.
at SOAS in my master's.
Yeah,
There was someone who organized a trip to North Korea,
yeah,
and I signed up kind of half seriously, half jokingly,
yeah,
because it always intrigued me. And you can only go there as part of an official
yeah, yeah, yeah,
tour group,
yeah.
and I think you have to either fly in from Beijing and then take the world's worst rated airline, Air Koryo, I think it's called. The food looks atrocious, and just the safety of the planes and all these things. It's just
yeah,
thank God it's a short haul flight, and
yeah,
yeah. But after all these things that have happened with tourists, they were doing a bit of silly stuff, but you just realize you can't mess around in these countries. You can't just
yeah.
act like you act in Europe and North America. These places don't mess around,
Yeah.
and some people have
They're
found out in a very bad way.
totally. They're watching you the whole time. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I don't think I would be the right person to go there for that sort of thing.
yeah. You said something. I was just made a point. You know what's really strange is this idea of like free traveling or backpacking. It's a really, from our point of view and from the point of view of backpackers and just kind of the idea of freedom of movement. It's a really interesting idea, but the rest of the world doesn't look at it in the same way. So by the way, in my experience, it's getting tougher and tougher to get visas and travel more freely. Most countries are very strict. So some countries, which really makes me upset, will not let you into their country unless you have an onward ticket, right? Or you have a
Oh,
reservation. So, whereas before you could go and just kind of hang out and then go away, some countries will not let you in until they see that exit ticket. So, So it gets tougher for people as well. I remember I
Mm.
was in Malaysia departing, going to Bangladesh, but I didn't have a ticket from Bangladesh to my next destination, and the Malaysian authorities didn't let me go there. And it was really none of their business, right? Because I was leaving their country. But I guess the Bangladeshis had told them that blah, 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 blah. And so things like this can get tough. And just going back to the logistical aspect of it, when you're planning to travel around the world to multiple countries, you really need to do your research, because getting stuck or getting having a problem in the middle of nowhere with no Wi-Fi is horrible. I It
Oh,
happened
it's
to me.
huge.
I
Yeah.
forget which country I had, but I needed an onward ticket, and I couldn't get it. So I had to go to the corner of an airport in the middle. I forget which country it was. Let's say it was like Laos or Vietnam. And then I had to get a ticket. And then the website that I know, there's a lot of websites to get tickets now, but the website I used took my credit card, but they wouldn't issue the ticket immediately. You had to wait 30 minutes before the ticket came out. You're trying to get connections. You're calling Skype. Maybe, sometimes when you use your credit card abroad, they think there's like a fraud charge, so they'll hold your
Yeah.
card. So there's a lot of like a lot of strange things happening. Of course, there's areas for improvement. But what I'm trying to say is just that you should really do your research. Not all free willy-ish, like open. So like just kind of like know what you're doing and have a little bit of a plan. But the cool thing is you do meet other travelers, which I think is interesting, because you meet other people who are very similar to you in the middle of nowhere, and you'll be like, oh, hey, where are you from? And I'm from Ottawa. Where are you from? Oh, I'm from
Yeah,
Vancouver.
yeah.
Yeah,
Or if you meet a local and they're able to show you parts
yeah,
of the
yeah.
country which you would never really be able to figure out through a Lonely Planet guide or something.
People.
So
And
that's always
we have
helpful.
Of course, and I think we have to say that we'd love to visit India, right? Wink, wink.
We absolutely.
We have to visit India, where all our listeners are. Visit the country. I really
I,
wanted to
I
do
went to India
Goa, right?
2000, oh my goodness, forgetting the year, 17.
Yeah,
Really loved it. It was a
loved it.
fantastic wedding. And actually, the visa, everyone told me that the visa process is a bit of a challenge for India.
Not for
It
you.
was a breeze for me. I got their e visa, and the website looked a bit sketchy, but it all worked fine. The
Yeah.
only challenge that we had was it was when we arrived, they canceled a lot of the currency. It was like the black money
Oh,
that they were trying to
right.
get rid of,
Yeah, a couple years
and
back.
so we were kind of stuck. I think I told the story before, but basically, it's the kind of thing that when you're away from home
Yeah,
and lacking funds,
yeah.
that very quickly becomes a serious problem.
Very serious.
Um,
With the money thing, you make such a good point. When you're traveling, you got to think about, like, okay, so I can take a credit card, but there's a limit. It might not be
mm,
accepted. I can take a debit, but maybe the ATM machine will eat it.
yeah,
Wherever I
yeah.
am, I carry
And
cash, but
local
I'm thinking
currency.
rob.
Because another one was like when I went to Nigeria and Gabon, even in London, where I was at the time, I went to go get some currency exchange, and they're like, "Where are you going?" I said, "Oh, I'm going to Gabon." I said, "You don't have currency for there. What are you talking about?" And I thought, "Well,
Yeah.
why not?" I just took it for granted that they would be able to exchange
Uh,
my money. So,
what is the
um,
currency in Gabon? What's it called? Do you know?
so they, from what I remember, it's a joint currency. This
Oh,
West African franc,
yeah.
Central. Oh my goodness, it's embarrassing. I'm very sorry, Gabonese
No, no, no.
listeners. Uh, Gabon currency. I think it's, yeah, Central African CFA franc. So it's a
Ah,
community currency. Um,
it's a regional for a bunch of countries.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Always a challenge.
Yeah.
Um, and then I want to quickly tell you another interesting fact. So there's the most visited country in the world. What do you think that is?
America?
No, it's France.
Oh, really?
I found
Oh,
that quite surprising, but
yeah, yeah.
the Dutch people here, they love going to France. A lot of people go camping and hiking and trekking. That's a big thing. And then of course
Yeah.
there's Paris, and then the least visited country in the world. You kind of alluded to it earlier. It's really hard
Uh,
to get to. That's the
okay.
reason why.
Oh, one of the
Um,
Pacific countries?
yeah, yeah. It's Tuvalu.
Tuvalu, okay.
Just because it's so hard to reach. I think they've only had like 5,000 visitors last year, or probably even less due to the pandemic. And then the hardest non-country to reach. So it's the hint is that it's also South Pacific. Do you have an idea about what it is?
Papua New Guinea?
No,
Palau.
no,
Palau?
those
No.
are countries.
Oh, okay.
So it's
Um,
like an overseas territory. it's Pitcairn Island, so it's owned by the UK, or governed by the
Oh,
UK.
okay.
Um, and basically, it's in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and there's a population of 50 people, and it has
Oh,
no airport, and it's hundreds of kilometers away from the nearest next inhabited island. So
wow.
uh, that would definitely take over Tuvalu because it's so impossible to get to. You have to basically fly to Tahiti.
Mhm.
Be a nice place to visit,
And
by the
then
way.
take a
And
boat?
then you fly to
Oh,
another, from there, you fly to another random island, which is the closest airport to Pitcairn, which only flies there like 3 times a week. And then you have to take a boat to Pitcairn Island, which only goes 3 times a week. So you have to time this thing all
yeah.
very properly. And then you're there. And I guess you got to look around for a bit, get bored, and
And then do your thing.
mm. um, a second.
No problem. I think we should make it a goal for Super Respectable to one day broadcast from Pitcairn Island. That could be our most remote. Maybe we could hold the record for like the most remote podcast or something like that. That'd be fun.
That'd be great. I have a friend of mine. She went there a couple of years ago. I think she made it there. She
Yeah,
told me she was planning to go, and super respectable that she pulled that off.
very cool.
Um, and then another couple more facts because you
Yeah,
mentioned about accessibility.
yeah.
It's a very interesting fact that less than 20% of the world's population has been on a plane.
Oh, really?
I find that totally mind-boggling because airports are always humming. There's tons of planes in the air, even in pandemic times. Planes are always packed. Flights are getting sold out. It was a bit of a frenzy, but then you just have to think that's actually just a small fraction of the world's population.
Yeah, I can imagine.
20 less than 20%.
I have this funny I've known like in my actually this is from travel, but in my observations, I've noticed that every single country in the world has a national carrier or some type of carrier. You know, even the countries that really are third world or whatever, everyone's got a carrier. So even if you'll go to the middle of nowhere, you'll notice that like they might not have this and that, but they'll have air so and so, like air Koryo or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah,
you're saying.
yeah.
So that's interesting. Oh wow,
Yeah,
20%,
and
huh?
on that note, I think it's Air Canada. They should really do something to improve their airline food and the branding since they're the
Oh
national carrier. Because like even KLM, Dutch food isn't exactly world renowned, but they'd make an effort, the Dutch national carrier, to have some Dutch cookies, some Dutch cheese, just some things,
yeah,
which they're nothing too fancy, but it's like connected to the country. Whereas
totally.
like I've traveled Air Canada my whole life, and it's always the same, like pasta or chicken and some crappy like pizza wrap, which has nothing to do with anything. Like
Yeah.
they could make a little token effort to put maple syrup on something. Maybe have some salmon once in a while. I don't know.
Yeah, that's for the big wigs to determine what it is. But I agree with you. Let's try to promote
Just promote
our
Canada a bit more. People
Canada.
are interested. They want to know what Canadian food is all about. Give us,
Yeah,
I'll have craft dinner.
yeah, yeah.
I would eat that over some of the
Pr
stuff they serve.
Promote the food, reduce the prices, and give better quality service, and I'm okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I know it's
and
tough. It's a big country geographically to pull it off, but you can fix that. Come on.
yeah, come on. It's funny to think that all these other countries like have like tons of indisposable income for like massive planes and this and that, and we're like
Hmm.
sort of struggling with these old planes with like this old design, and then you
Yeah,
go inside.
I was I was disturbed by my last Air Canada flight because it had like components from different countries, and
Yeah.
it had the dates on them, and I'm like, this is from the 80s, 70s. This thing is like duct taped together.
Yeah,
Is it
yeah,
really
yeah.
airworthy? And last little point.
Tell me interesting facts.
So all these facts about people who've traveled the world in such a speed, it's only been possible in the last few decades because
Yeah,
um, in the 1950s,
yeah.
to travel from London to New York, how long do you think? How many hours?
On like a commercial plane
Yeah, yeah.
in the 50s, 8 hours, close.
No, 18 hours. That's how
18
long it took.
hours?
Yeah, yeah. So they had to stop so to go from London, UK to New York City, they had to stop in Shannon, Ireland. So the last little airport before the New World. And they would have to land in the first port of call, which was Gander, Newfoundland.
Oh
to
my
like
gosh.
they have to do all these refueling because they barely would make it across. With the planes are probably not very fuel efficient.
Yeah,
So as soon as they hit land, they had to land, refuel, then go off to New York City.
yeah.
And then in the 90s and 80s, there was Concorde, which made it like I think it was 4.5, 5 hours to go from London to New York. And very
Yeah.
sadly, we've regressed, and that doesn't exist anymore.
Now I think a London to New York flight is on a normal flight. It's what, like 6 or 7 hours, right? On a
Six
normal
or seven
commercial.
hours, but yeah, hopefully Elon Musk will sort us out with some sort of new
Yeah.
contraption to get us there
Would you go on
faster.
if they brought back the Concorde? Would you take it?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite disturbing the way it fizzled out and flamed out because there was that accident.
Yeah, but
But
the idea was
like we
cool.
said in previous episodes, plane travel is very safe,
Very safe.
and I think if they could assure the travelers of the safety, then I'm all for it. Why not? I would.
Yeah, I
In a
agree.
way, it's weird because like it was such a luxurious thing to do, and
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Some
sure if you're a
businessman and
business traveler, you kind of want to like have an extra hour or two to enjoy the
yeah,
amenities. But I think the whole benefit is just get there faster. Um,
yeah. I agree.
yeah, I would do it.
Very cool. Thanks for the topic. I think it was really interesting. Travel's always been an interesting part of my life, and I'm glad that other people share in it too. And I would encourage listeners, viewers to see the world, travel.
See the world, but in a responsible way. Don't be a ugly tourist who just
Yeah,
passes through, takes pictures, and
yeah.
upsets the locals, flies everywhere, and destroys the planet. There's a good way to do it and a bad way to do it.
Be a Canadian
So
when you travel. I think is the.
be a Canadian. Be a Canadian.
Anyways, happy inauguration day, happy pre-birthday, happy
Thank you.
happy Wednesday, and then we'll see you next week.
See you next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. Bye bye. Signing off.
Bye.